Hi, welcome back to part 4. While I'm waiting for my spare parts to arrive, I'm going to be cleaning all the surfaces up so that they're ready for the gaskets. So I actually thought that these little cardboard pieces that I cut out were actually quite a good idea, especially when they're in conjunction with towel around it. Just because I'm going to be cleaning this carbon off the head here, and the least chance of stuff getting in there into the crankcase, the better. So what I did was draw around a gasket and then cut that out. So I think that just minimises the likelihood of getting debris in there. Especially, as I said, I'm going to be cleaning this off. So I've been looking on YouTube and Googling various ways of cleaning gasket surfaces, and I'm getting quite a few conflicting bits of information. It seems WD-40 is quite good for removing this carbon deposits, but Scotch Brite, I've heard several things. One site said that it's got aluminium oxide or titanium oxide embedded in it, and that can get in the cranks and all that. You know, it's quite an abrasive material apparently, so not a good idea to get that anywhere near the surfaces, the gasket surfaces. But I think if you're aware of that, if that is the case, I don't know if it's true or not, but if you're aware of that, then I think you can go a long way to making sure that that doesn't happen. So when I clean the surfaces, I'm going to be really careful that I don't get any of the Scotch Brite. I'm going to clean it off with brake cleaning fluid really well, and just be mindful of it. I can't really see what else I can do. So this is what I'm going to be doing over the next 4 weeks or 3 weeks, and I'll just video each bit that I do. I'll just do it like how I start it off, and any problems I encounter I shall video as well. So that's coming up all right. And as I say, when I've done it, I'm going to be squirting brake cleaner everywhere and making sure it's really nice and clean and keeping it out of the case as well. So just basically doing it carefully. Okay, well I've gone over that quite a few times, just in case there is that aluminium oxide in that scotch brite stuff. I've gone around there all with brake fluid, cleaned it all out, wiped it. I'm going to be putting these rings, I've got to make sure they're at the right orientation, the gaps at the right orientation when I put it together. And I'm also going to be using assembly lube when I put it back together again as well. So that won't be the last time that I check this out, make sure it's all right. But I think that's pretty good for now. And I like my cardboard covers as well, because I think that just really makes sure nothing gets into the crankcase. And there's loads of paper towel there as well. Although I have been thinking that maybe it's best just not to use that Scotch Brite, just in case, and just use scrapers. We'll see how it goes. As I said, I couldn't find anything definitive. Just loads and loads of conflicting information. So I guess all you do is you do what you feel's right. Your bike, isn't it, I suppose. It seems to come off a lot easier if you leave it to soak in WD-40, these carbon deposits. Anyway, I don't want to spend the whole video on just one bit, so I'll only be showing you little bits that I do in the hope that it's helpful. I think I'm happy with that for now. I'll come back to that before I put it together and make sure it's clean. Might even take the rings out, but I don't know yet. But that's all right for now. So I'm going to be concentrating on these surfaces now, so then I can put the thing to bed. Doesn't look too bad. Right, I think that Scotch Brite seems to be the right thing for that. As long as I'm really careful that it doesn't go in anywhere inside. I looked on their website last night and it does have aluminium oxide particles that are microns, so I do have to be careful. I'm happy with that side, so I'll just I'm only doing this is going to be kind of exposed to the elements for about 3 weeks while I'm waiting for these parts to arrive. So I sort of want to do this as well as possible, and then I'll clean everything anyway before I put it back together again. I'll go over everything and give it another clean out, clean all around here. So I'll do a proper job of it. I'll just do the other side just like I did this side, but I'm not going to film everything because I'll go over my kind of 25-minute window that I've given myself. Okay, I'm happy with that side, so I'll just cover that up as well. Happy with along there. And then before I put it together again, I'm going to degrease everything again. I'll cover this really well, and then I'll make sure that all the rings, I'll squirt cleaning stuff in there and make sure that's all hunky-dory as well. So I'll go and do the other side. I think that will do for now. The threads there all look alright to me, so that's okay. So I reckon I can put this to rest now until my bits arrive. Cylinder head. I'm only going to show doing one cylinder because I'm going to do both the same. And I think these are the O-rings, and I don't think O-rings are put back in. I think Harley Davidson, from what I've heard, made quite an effort to make sure people didn't use the O-rings but I shall check in the manual for that. Just very carefully going to go all the way around. I can still see the honing marks in the cylinder, which is pretty good. Right, well, I'm quite happy with that, I think. When I put it together, I'm going to be putting the assembly lube in all this, but because I've got to wait a few weeks for my spare parts to arrive, I'm just going to coat that in WD-40 so the barrels don't rust and cover it up nicely. Okay, these marks are actually in the aluminium, so I'm going to call that done. Now the manual says it ought to be flat within 0.152 millimeters, so this is 0.1 millimeter, and that traps it under, so that's, I'd say that's well within that spec. Yep, I think that's okay. So I'm going to call that done. Now this, I really don't think this needs much work. I think that's okay. I think those grooves are just a little bit oily, maybe. Yep, I'm happy with that. As I say, as it's hanging around for a few weeks, I'm gonna, before I put it together, I'll give it a little once over, blow it all out, make sure it's all right. But for now, that's fine. So that just leaves the cylinder head. Right, so I started with one of the cylinder heads and cleaned all this off, cleaned in there, and cleaned in the exhaust, pulled all that out, cleaned all that up, and then I decided to take the valves out and just make sure the seating on them was correct. And then once you've done that, because your valves have gone past the valve seals and the grooves in here in the valve stem might have cut the seal a little bit, it says really to replace them, because that's where oil can leak. So the whole thing started to become a bit of a bigger project than just cleaning it. So what I've decided to do is to make another video separate on just doing the head. And this whole series isn't, I'm not telling people what to do or how to do it. I'm showing you how I'm doing it, so you take from it what you take from it. So I think I'll do another video, which will be number 5, of just the head, and then 6 will be putting it back together again. The second head that I haven't done, I'm going to do that in a separate video so that you can see the process I'm going through. I'm not teaching anybody how to do this, and I'm not telling anybody how to do this. All I'm doing is making a record of how I've done this and how I'm going about it. I'm following the manual pretty closely, but I'm not an expert. I'm just going carefully. If I'd seen a video like this before I started, at least I would have known what I'm letting myself in for. And as I said before, all I've seen is kind of like when the motor's on the bench and things like that, and it's not really a true representation of all the work that's going into doing it. And then all the checks that you've got to do to make sure you're doing it properly, and when you put it back together again, you only need to do that the once. So I'm taking my time, doing it carefully, and I just hope it's informative and helps someone, because it certainly would have helped me before I started. Nothing you can't do, just it's slowly, take your time, do it carefully. So, thanks for watching, see you later, cheerio.